fast, snappy, but it still captures the essence of what the band is. It's not. We're starting to mould into what we became. You could see the soul being, the cake being found for the cherry.
It's certainly, I think it's one of the things that was a revelation for the fans, and it's one of the absolute highlights among many. It's one of the total highlights. It must be a complete rush to see that you performed that in its entirety, and because of Brian or whatever, the Who really did jump out that day. On that show, you jumped out amazingly.
Yeah, I can't be objective about that. I mean, I kind of watch everything we do like this. And I listened to records like this for the first 20 years. I can't. It's really weird for me. I've never liked my voice. I've always hated it. I love them. I love Townsend songs, and I try and find the character in them and dramatise them. And I was that's what I am. I'm not really a singer. I'm a dramatist of his lyrics. That's what I try and do. But when I'm doing it, I can listen to it. But once it's done, I don't want to hear it again. And then if it's on the radio, so I might kind of be able to see it in a different perspective. Does that make sense?
George Martin once told me that he said that John Lennon hated his voice so much he did everything to screw it up. He wanted to put it through.
Oh yeah, put it through the washing machine.
That's
and
right.
with the echo of the tumble dryer as well.
Is that self-modest? Are you being?
No, I don't
is that
know.
false modesty?
I think Rod Stewart's the only singer I know who likes his voice. Apparently, but most singers, I mean, it's like most people, they hear themselves recorded on a tape recorder. They think, God, do I sound like that? And they spend the rest of the day in complete and utter paranoia with their mouth shut.
Now, of course, there was one time, a notable time, when all four members of The Who were interviewed, which became a running theme through Kids Are All Right, and that's the famous Russell Harty interview, where Russell Harty interviews all four of you. At one point, Pete rips
attempts to interview. I think if you rephrase that, he attempts to interview all four of us, and we just all give up, and it becomes the Keith Moon show.
It does, with Pete ripping off Keith's clothes and
yeah. Well, Pete was. People don't really realise that Pete was often the antagonist to Moon, and he would really goad him and play off each other, and a lot of the trouble that Moon used to end up in, Pete had actually started.
You look like you're actually having a good time in that interview.
Well, I mean, how could you not have a good time around Keith Moon? He was so much fun when he was on. I've never met another character like him. I mean, we had our ups and downs as people, what people don't, that were kind of living the lives that we were living at that time. We were in each other's, almost in each other's beds. Not quite, but, and so it will be impossible not to have frictions in that situation. But towards the end, I think I was one of the only stable things in Keith's life. It was a really weird situation. For me, it was particularly weird because I was the only straight one. Someone had to be straight in the band because I was dealing with one alcoholic, probably drug addict. In Keith, Pete was an alcoholic. John was an alcoholic, and then Pete became so someone has to be straight, and I couldn't do. The only drug I could do was pot. And I didn't used to do that very often because I couldn't sing on it, because it dries your throat up. So it kept me away from it. I was very, very lucky.
Was there almost like such a strange moment? Because there is sometimes when you're in a party and everyone's drunk as a skunk, and there's one designated driver or whatever, and they all go, "Oh, come on, join in." Did you ever actually have all that kind of, "Well, you don't understand what we're doing"?
I used to have my own fun in my own quiet way, yeah. But with the band, I used to always have to be the one to. Because it could have all just gone pew at any moment. It was like a bomb waiting to go off. And someone had to be the case that held it together.
There are a couple of things in the film that people watch and exhilarate them, and they can't understand them, but they're just exhilarated, but on a visceral level. I think watching Keith at any time destroying his kit, I think there's a bit where he's destroying the Pictures of Lily kit, and he's going completely berserk and throwing it into the audience and stuff like that. What did you feel when those things were going on? Was it like Pete always called it auto-destruction and gave it a kind of art school hue, or was it just like theatrics to you?
Theatrics. course it was theatrics. It's all about being noticed. It was, Keith Moon. I mean, my biggest problem with Keith Moon is that I used to have to stand in front of him. And I mean, how dare anybody stand in front of Keith Moon? That was his attitude. Drummer should be on the front stage, singer at the back. So a lot of that smashing up is Keith Moon actually coming to the front of the stage. All right, so he's throwing a drum at you. He's being the star. And then whether Keith saw it or not, and when I consoled him after he first saw the first cut, I said, "Don't get down, Keith. You're the bloody star of it. Don't worry about it. I'll get you fit again. We'll get you back."
So when Pete would go on talking about auto-destruction and various Dadaist principles, what were you thinking?
What a load of bollocks.
Now the scenes that were specially shot with John, that famous bit where he collects all his gold discs off the wall and goes out and does did like a skeet shooting and then finally mows him down with a machine gun. Does that summarise John's sense of humour? Talk about that.
Yeah, it's just total John. He was always the man of the material, which that clip is. I mean, it's all about possession. But he had this dark side of it. No, it does sum John up very, very well.
You know what John said when somebody said, "How can you shoot up all those gold discs?" You know what John's reply was, don't you? He said, "Not mine, those are Roger's."
Oh, well, probably were. And he probably meant it.
Shooting up your gold discs.
Yeah.
But it was his idea to go crazy with them.
I know, with my gold discs. Yeah. But I mean, like I say, that was John's humour.
Some of the other special shot sequences, the performance at the time you were recording "Who Are You" in the studio and actually getting it to recreating the recording, which I think had taken place maybe a couple of weeks earlier. Do you remember doing that? The cameras in there for when you were recording "Who Are You"?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was a weird period as well because it was the punk period. And again, you can see the kind of, we're trying to find our place in this new world. It worked, we kind of found it, but I'm much more comfortable with that song today than I was then, from what I remember. When I hear it on the radio sometimes, I think, I wish I hadn't sung it like that, but I did, and that's it.
Moon, of course, was a huge surf music fan, so there you are doing Barbara Ann.
Oh, yes, the placatory Barbara Ann, yes. Yes, Keith, we'll do Barbara Ann in a minute. You can play this one for now.
Did you enjoy doing it?
Oh, I used to love doing Barbara Ann. I mean, I didn't have to scream my guts out and I could do the low voice, so it was great. And we used to do great harmonies. We were as good as the Beach Boys, actually. And Moon's face when we used to do it on stage, it was... I think it's when he was probably at his most alive when we used to do that. I remember we did a gig in San Francisco. We did a day on the green with the Grateful Dead, Bill Graham production at Oakland Stadium. We were on first, obviously, because you have to wait all day to go on after the Dead. And we let Keith do Barbara Ann, and he did Johnny Be Good. I've never ever seen him so happy in all my life.
What was your very, very earliest memories of when the first three core members of the Who got together and the beginning, the coalescence of the Who?
It didn't come. The very early stuff was youth clubs and playing Buddy Holly stuff, but that I don't call that the Who. That was the Detours. The Who came together and didn't come together until Moon joined us. And it happened at the instant he got on the stage, and we played Roadrunner as a tester. He came up and said, "I can play better than that drummer." And the instant he played with the three of us, something just incredible took over, and it was like you've finally fitted a jigsaw puzzle together. That's when the Who was formed.
Do you remember the first demo session you did? And that was the autumn of '63 in that bloke's flat somewhere.
Yeah, I do, yeah, and he was I think he was a guy who did sound effects things for the BBC, and it was in Cricklewood. I do remember it, yeah, and it was in his front room, And what was the song we did? Peter had written 2 original songs. And I'm singing like a bloody choir boy. Because I didn't have, I mean, one of the biggest problems in the early Who was finding a voice for those songs. Because I've been singing like Howlin' Wolf for the last 5 years. Right down in my boots down there, growling away. Or up there singing like James Brown, doing all that soul stuff. When Pete came with these really peculiar, what I thought were peculiar songs, because they weren't normal kind of blues-based rock and roll. They were something completely different. It was very difficult to find a voice for them. The voice. It was easy to find a voice, but not the voice. Took me. I don't think I got the voice until live on stage with Tommy.
That first demo session must have been really strange. You were saying you were in some bloke's front room, and then Pete's songs. Tell me, can you remember the songs or anything about those songs?
Well, we heard them literally the day before, and they were very sweet. I thought, what the fuck is this? I always wanted to be in a blues band. I was a soul singer, so it was weird. I had to go back and join the choir.
Was that the first time you'd actually made a recording?
Yeah.
40 years ago, so you actually went back into a recording. That was the first, but it was somebody's living room.
Yeah, someone's front room with all the furniture and everything. But it made an amazing sound. I don't know how he did it, because all he had was one. I think it was just one 2-track tape recorder, or maybe 2, and he was bouncing. I don't know what it was, how he was. He was quite cagey about how he made the sounds he made, because he used to do all the music for Doctor Who.
Ron Grainer.
Yeah, and that was all kind of way ahead of its time, that music, and no one ever knew. So he's quite cagey about what he was doing in his little back room.
When you were a kid growing up, did you have the remotest concept of what 40 years would be like, and the fact that you would be doing one thing that has lasted 40 years?
No. I knew we'd make it. I knew we'd be really successful. I always knew that. Never had any doubt about that. But no, I mean, every day, it's one day at a time, isn't it? 40 years gone. God. But our best work will come within the next... Hopefully within the next year, but definitely within the next 2. You wait and see. Because there's a hunger out there. No one writes like Townsend. And we've done one song so far that he's written. And I've played it to a few people. I've been doing a thing for the History Channel and living with cowboys and the real thing. And we've been doing Hank Williams stuff at night, just singing stuff. And I played them a bit of this song, and they all say, "What's that?" Immediately, it's got that magic, and I know our best work will still come. You won't see.
No one sings like no one writes like Townsend. No one sings like Daltrey, and nobody makes music like the Who, except the Who.
Only the Who, yeah. I mean, but that, you could say that of the Stones.
Nah.
They're a good band too.
Nah,
they're a good.
Who were better?
Well, it's all subjective.
Not to me, though. Thank you.
All right, mate.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.